Right. So Dr. Daniel Amen, they tell me everything in moderation. So, I mean, that means that my glass of red wine, all of that, that's totally fine in moderation, right?
Yeah, it's the gateway thought to health. It's the gateway behavior to a bad brain. Any alcohol is associated with decreased white matter in the brain. This is a study from Spain. Any alcohol. So light drinkers had more disruption in white matter. So gray matter, brain cell bodies, it's where processing happens. White matter are nerve cell tracks. So think of white matter like the highways in your brain. And when you drink, potholes begin to show up in the highways, which means communication becomes slower. And I've been talking about this for 30 years because I've been looking at the brain for 30 years and I'm like, alcohol is not a health food. And 2 years ago, the American Cancer Society came out against any alcohol. Now, this is a body that had gotten money from the alcohol industry. So this was a hard thing, except the research was really clear. Any alcohol is associated with an increased risk of 7 different types of cancer, including prostate cancer, breast cancer, mouth cancer, larynx cancer, colon cancer. This is not innocuous, and yet we're sold this lie that, well, the average man can have 2 to 3 drinks a week. It's 14 to 21 drinks a week. Are you insane? The average woman can have 1 to 2 drinks a day, and that's somehow good for them. Brand new study that actually just came out a couple of weeks ago. They looked at all the research over 40 years, and they found many of the studies were supported by the alcohol industry. And the ones that ended up saying alcohol was good for your brain were flawed, because they would actually take the teetotalers who had been addicts and stopped. So obviously they weren't teetotalers by history. And it's just a lie. Alcohol is poison. It's pure and simple. Why do you have to get used to the taste? Because the first time you taste it, it tastes terrible. Why do things taste terrible? Because they're poisonous to you. Alcohol is a disinfectant. I love this story. During the pandemic, Jim Beam, famous whiskey company, turned their plants into hand sanitizer plants. Why does my wife, who's a nurse, put alcohol on your skin before she gives you a shot? Because it kills the bugs. Well, how many bugs are in your gut? There's this thing, called the microbiome. You have 100 trillion bugs in your gut. They're like really important. I think of them as they're your defense force. They make neurotransmitters, they make vitamins, they detoxify your body, they digest your food, they protect your gut lining. So you're going to pour alcohol in there and disrupt the microbiome. You're going to be killing the good bugs. No. Plus, I was a psychiatrist for 40 years. The most problems I see in people's lives and people's families, bad decisions when they're drinking. They say things they shouldn't say. They do things they shouldn't do. They get into an accident. It's like, no, why would you drink something that disrupts brain function? Oh, I feel better. Well, there's like a dozen other ways to feel better, from meditation, learning how to not believe every stupid thing you think, diaphragmatic breathing, hypnosis. I mean, there are a whole bunch of things you can do to calm your social anxiety that do not make you erratic and stupid.
Now, I'm pretty stoked to announce too that for the last couple of years, I have been working with Thrive Market on creating my own product with them. And we decided a couple years back that a good nut butter would be the perfect product to team up on. So my nut butter has officially launched. So there's a couple of different ones. There's a macadamia nut, there's a cinnamon Brazil nut, which is sweet and tastes amazing, that's sweetened with allulose. And there's a chocolate hazelnut flavor, which is amazing. And they're going to abide by my rules too. There's a few different nuts in them, and then there's some allulose, and there's some salt. There's no fillers, there's no weird stuff. And the cool thing is, if you get them through Thrive Market using that link down below, you'll save 30% off your entire grocery order, which also includes my nut butters. Plus you get a $60 free gift when you use that link. So you use that link down below, and then you can find the nut butters there on the website, and you can try whatever different flavor you want. I highly recommend you check them out. I created them in tandem with Thrive Market, so what you're getting is literally what I formulated and what I made. So definitely check them out. And if you're already a Thrive Market member, I'll put a link down below in the description that's specifically for a Thrive Market member that goes directly to that page as well.
Well, I mean, that was going to be the next question that I asked you, is there's going to be people that say, and genuinely feel this way, well, alcohol is the only thing that lets me feel calmer. So what do you have to say to people that say, okay, alcohol reduces their stress a little bit, knowing that there's still other options? Let's pretend that there were not other options to reduce their stress, and it was either alcohol or no alcohol. If people are electing to consume alcohol to bring their stress levels down, would you say that the negative attributes of alcohol are vastly going to supersede the positive impact of maybe reduction of stress? And is it even really a reduction of stress? Or is it just feel like it is?
It's a lie. Because 24 hours later, when the alcohol wears off, so when you drink, settles down your nervous system. Actually, I'm very proud of this on a show called The Truth About Drinking that won the Emmy for Best Educational Television Show. I got someone drunk on national television. So scan them sober, and actually getting him sober was a hard thing. And then we got him drunk on national television. And what happens when you drink, it suppresses brain activity. And what happens when you suppress brain activity? And then the break isn't there anymore. You get rebound. So 24 hours later, you're stressed again. But this time you're more stressed than before, and so you have to drink again. And I want to help people feel better fast, but in a way that lasts. Alcohol doesn't last. Alcohol is like caffeine, it's like nicotine, it's like any other drug where it changes your brain to need it in order for you to be okay. I'm not okay with that. It's like, no, let's do things to train your brain, or let's use more rational things, whether it's GABA or theanine or magnesium or ashwagandha to do it. But my favorite that virtually always works for people that do it is the 15-second breath. It's like, learn how to breathe in a way that serves your mind rather than a way that hurts your mind. And I teach people diaphragmatic breathing, so breathing with their belly, how babies breathe, puppies breathe. 4 seconds in, hold it for 1.5 seconds, 8 seconds out. Hold it for 1.5 seconds. Just do that 4 times. Triggers a relaxation response in your brain. This isn't hard. Like, I can get first graders to do this. It's training. And then, if you don't believe every stupid thing you think, you won't have to drug yourself. You have to train your body, train your mind. Otherwise, really, you're going to become dependent on poison to be happy. That's not a prescription for long-term happiness.
Let's talk brain energetics for a moment. Ranging from network stability all the way through mitochondrial function. And this is, at least on my channel, they're pretty biochemically savvy. So when it comes to the mitochondria, I know this is obviously an area where my audience hears me talk all the time, because simply talking from an athletic perspective or nutritional ketosis, there's a lot of talk on the mitochondria. I don't think people understand just how potent alcohol is at damaging the mitochondria in the brain. What have you seen with some of your research?
So at Amen Clinics, we do a study called brain SPECT imaging, single photon emission computed tomography. It's a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and activity. It looks at how the brain works. And the research shows that 49% of the tracer is taken up in the mitochondria. So we're actually getting a look at mitochondrial function. And we've seen that alcohol and marijuana and magic mushrooms all suppress mitochondrial function, and they suppress brain function. This is not a good thing. I am opposed to everything that decreases activity, mitochondrial function in the brain, or anywhere else for that matter. But if you think a lot of cells may have a couple of mitochondria, neurons can have up to 10,000 mitochondria in individual cells. I mean, they're loaded. Your brain is the most energy hungry organ in the body. It's 2% of your body's weight, but uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. So if you're eating like crap, you're going to think like crap.
Yeah, that's potent. So with alcohol, you said that you've seen some research that a good percentage gets converted into glucose. So you also have this sort of direct metabolic impact. Maybe people are, which unfortunately it's a lot of people that are metabolically, I call it metabolically deranged, metabolically dysfunctional, having some level of metabolic just dysfunction, whether it be a little bit or a lot. By consuming alcohol, they think they're doing themselves a favor by modulating stress, by helping them feel a certain way, vasodilation, whatever. But in reality, what's happening metabolically too? What's happening? I mean, you've got a conversion into sugar. You've got acetaldehyde, which is just a sheer poison that the liver has to deal with. Like from soup to nuts. I think people need to know like what is actually happening.
Every system in your body gets worse with alcohol, whether it's your kidneys or your liver, your microbiome in your intestines, your brain, your thyroid. It suppresses normal, healthy function while adding poisons to the system. So, and then it causes you to make bad decisions, which makes everything worse still. You know, you're more likely, when you drink, you're more likely to be hungry and to not know when you're full. And you're more likely to say something to your wife that's going to make you very unhappy. And her hippocampus is larger than yours, which means she's going to remember what you said for a long time.
You know, there was an interesting paper, I can't remember what it was published in, but it was looking specifically at X units of lager consumed prior to, basically the later that it was consumed. There was a number of different things that they were looking at. And just to your point, the more that was consumed, when they were given the option to eat ad lib, they ate significantly more. And I always say there's a reason that McDonald's and Taco Bell stay open until 3 or 4 a.m., right? Because they know that people that are drinking are going to come and make a lot more cruddy decisions. And it was funny because I had Dr. Peter Attia on the channel a while back, and he literally in his longevity book wanted to do like an entire section of the book associated to accidental death because he thought it was just such a potent, important thing to talk about. And I agree. The publisher said, no, that's not that interesting to people, so leave that out. And he's kind of arguing this, saying, well, when people drink, they do this, they do that. And you just made such an important point that I think it's hard for people to really resonate with in the moment, because I always say it's difficult to sell insurance. Like when you tell someone that this is going to happen to you in 20 or 30 years, they say, okay, well, I'll deal with it then, or I'm not too worried about it now, until they have a call to action, right? So thinking about getting into a car accident or doing something terrible, stepping off a cliff into the ocean because you've had too many drinks, people don't really think about that because, oh, it's never going to happen to me, or, oh, I'm never going to get that totally based, you know. It's a very, very real thing. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I mean, the amount of people that die in alcohol-related automobile accidents is ridiculous.
And it's the heartbreak I often end up dealing with. It's the children that were abandoned. It's the friend that died. And the people left behind. The heartbreak can go on for generations. It's, and the first story of alcohol in the Bible is Noah after the flood. He planted a vineyard, got drunk, was naked, and one of his sons found him. And when he came to, he was embarrassed and angry, and it caused this schism in the family. So, even thousands of years ago, alcohol is not a health food. No. And people don't want to hear it, but, I always say, know the truth will set you free. Actually, Jesus said that first, but but I like it so much because the truth is that substance that is pushed on us, right, during the Super Bowl, during the World Series, during the NBA playoffs, you see beer commercials over and over and over and over, making you think, if I drink that, I'm going to have fun. And it's just a lie. And when you're sober and you go to parties, you go, these people are stupid. If you have to be intoxicated in order to deal with people, you're with the wrong group.
Yeah, I've always joked with my wife and I have been together since high school, and it's we've never been drinkers, and we've always joked like we're weird enough. We can go and we can just have fun and be totally weird without alcohol. We don't need alcohol to get us weird. We always joke. But to wrap this up, what about the sleep piece of the equation? Because I can interlink this so much with what a lot of people on my channel are probably interested in hearing. Well, how does it affect my fitness? How does it affect my potential body composition? And I can indirectly link it to the effects of sleep, but you're the one that looks at the brain. What are you seeing as far as slow wave sleep, as far as non-REM sleep versus REM sleep, when you have even a small amount of alcohol? Because unfortunately, a lot of people will only talk about the studies where people are just getting completely wasted. Have you seen anything with even just a small amount of alcohol how that can impact sleep?
It decreases REM sleep. It decreases the most restorative part of your sleep cycle. And a lot of people, I say, I drink to go to sleep. But it wakes them up in the middle of the night because it had suppressed their neurons, which then springboard back, even more anxious than before. Well, then they'll have another drink, and that's how addiction starts. Yeah. And so it disrupts sleep, especially the most restorative sleep.
And I think people, and from what I understand, it seems to sort of consolidate some of the cycles early on, so then the later on in the sleep is where you really end up paying the price, which of course is during your REM phases. And people often forget that in addition to REM, one of the most important times of your restorative sleep is when you are having those growth hormone pulses, which are also very important. So I always like to sort of bake and wrap this a little bit with, yes, there is directly a link with body composition as well, because people think, well, you know what? Unfortunately, there's this dichotomy. There's this difference in this line of delineation between health and fitness. It's unfortunate, but what's always for fitness isn't always healthy. And I know a lot of people, even in the fitness community, that are very lean, look very healthy on the surface, but they will drink like fishes. They say, well, clearly it's working for me. Well, what's happening long term, what's happening on the inside, that's not going to be sustainable. And that's not exactly the best way to be going about things. When you're consistently suppressing growth hormone, when you're consistently, there's so many links to visceral fat accumulation and alcohol consumption, which when you're young, and sure, maybe that's not an issue, but when you start to have lipopolysaccharides and you start to have all these inflammatory issues that arise as a result of all this visceral fat that accumulates, then you start running into a problem. They don't call it a beer belly for nothing, too.
Well, let's talk about sex. Because, if we're talking about fitness, people get fit because they want to be more attractive often. And I often say, if you have blood flow problems anywhere, they're everywhere. So when people get on a brain healthy program, which means no drinking, their erections get better, they get harder, they last longer. Why? because you're helping your blood vessels work better. They become more pliable, they become healthier, they become more reactive, and your blood pressure begins to drop. So I often see from alcohol low blood flow in the brain. They often tell me they have erectile dysfunction as well. I'm like, well, if we get blood flow to your brain healthy, if you avoid things that hurt it, like alcohol, caffeine, marijuana, nicotine, and you eat better and you're exercising, better blood flow to your brain, but then your love life gets better. I love that. It's like one of the biggest effects of a brain healthy life is your love life's better.
All right. So if people want a better love life, where can they find you?
AmenClinics.com, like the last word in a prayer, AmenClinics.com, or on Instagram at doc_Amen, or on TikTok at Doc Amen.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And as always, keep it locked here on my channel.